Hi, I'm Jessica with Ellie and Mac, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make this super cute and easy toiletry bag. This is called the Tessa Toiletry Bag, and you can find the link to this bag in the caption below. It is super cute, and it has a little pocket inside, has this nice zipper. I'm going to walk you through each step, so come along with me. Let's get started. These are all the pieces that you'll need. Your main piece from an exterior of light to medium weight fabric. You can use fabric or you can also use vinyl or leather. And then the same piece in the lining fabric, light to medium weight fabric. If you choose, you can interface this as well. And you'll need a pocket. And make sure you add the markings here and the pocket placement on the lining, and also the center lines on both the main and the lining. This is the tabs for the zippers, which makes it much easier to open and close a zipper. Definitely cut that out. And lastly, the zipper, cut to the size in the pattern. This is zipper by the yard, number 5 zipper, and you can use 1 or 2 zipper pulls. Also need either double fold bias tape, it looks like this, in 1/2 inch wide, or fold over elastic that is 1 inch wide. A quick note about when cutting the interfacing, you want to cut the main pattern on the outer lines, but you want to cut the interfacing on these inner dashed lines. Now, if you're printing, it's going to look the same, you're just on paper. So keep in mind, if you're not using a projector, that's just fine. I am, and it just looks just the same. So these dashed lines on the inner side, that is where you're going to cut your interfacing. Now I have all my pieces cut, so come on over with me to the iron and I'll show you about the interfacing. This is my main piece and the lining piece. And on the wrong side, we're going to apply the interfacing. On the interfacing, if you have fusible interfacing, there's going to be kind of a rough side and a soft side. You want the rough side applied to the wrong side of each of these pieces. So I'm going to put that on there and center it up on both of them. And then on the iron, I'm going to set it to between wool and cotton, depending on your interfacing. You want to look at the instructions. Everyone is a little different. I'm going to start at the side and give it one little steam here, just to get that real stuck on. And you can kind of do that on one side. You don't want to go like all the way around, because sometimes the interfacing bubbles a little bit in the middle and you'll end up with a bubble instead of pushing it all to the side, kind of like a sticker when you're putting it on. You don't want to get those bubbles in there. So I'm going to go ahead and just put my iron on there and count to about 10 seconds. And when I'm teaching kids, I'm like 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. You can do the same thing. Now here at the end, I'm going to go around and just steam all the edges, just real quick, a little bit of steam there, just to make sure that the edges are really nice and stuck. Since this doesn't go into our seam allowance, we're going to have issues if it starts peeling up. So make sure everything is really well stuck down. If you'd like to add a handmade tag, you can put that either on this side or on this side. You'll have it facing up toward the outer edge, because the bag will end up like this. So if you want to put one, you'll put one like right here. The first thing we'll be doing is working on the tabs. So bring your zipper tab piece over to your ironing board, and we're going to flip it to the wrong side, fold it in half, matching those long raw edges, and go ahead and press it. If you are using faux leather or vinyl, you may want to grab some steam-a-seam, because you won't be able to press it like this, right, with your iron, but you can use a roller and get that really nice and rolled down. And then you can open it up and add a line of steam-a-seam in there, because our next step, and if you're using fabric, you can just go ahead and do this, is we're going to take one of our long raw edges, and we're going to fold it into that center crease and press it. So if you are using steam-a-seam with your vinyl, it would just go ahead and stick in there, and you wouldn't use the iron, but you could still go ahead and press it, flip that around, take the other long raw edge and also take that one to that center crease and go ahead and give that a good press. So now you'll have a piece like this, and what we're going to do is go ahead and stitch a line on either side of the center line 1/8 of an inch away from the center line. You can use a 3 to 3.5 millimeter stitch for this. I went ahead and pressed that again with the iron to set the stitches. Now all you're going to do is cut this in half. So you can fold it with the raw edges matching, and you can do this with scissors or with your rotary cutter, but I think it's pretty simple to do it like this and give it a little snip. And now you have 2 tabs that you can use to put inside the back. So go ahead and fold those so that the those lines that you stitched here are in the inside. So wrong sides together, just like so. And we're just going to baste across the edges on the ends of both of these. And now you have 2 zipper tabs. Next, we're going to do the pocket. So we're just going to go ahead and fold that right along the fold line for the pocket and pin or clip around the raw edges. This will be right sides together. You can't tell with my fabric, but it's right sides together. And the one thing we're going to do that is different is we're going to leave a little gap about 2 to 3 inches right here. So I'm going to go ahead and double up my clips here so that I don't forget. And then we're just going to go ahead and sew up here, back stitch well on both of these sides, then leave the gap, don't sew right here, and then starting here and down. So on this, make sure that when you get to the corner that you lift your presser foot up and then turn, and then you have a nice sharp corner like that. And then we're going to go ahead and just trim around the seam allowances, but not the gap, with our scissors all the way around here. And then go ahead and cut close to, but not through your stitches. Right there, be careful. I have cut my stitches and made a hole. That's not fun, and you have to go back and redo it. Okay, so there we have it, our pocket with all of that trimmed off. And we're going to go ahead and reach in. I'm going to put my thumb in there, flip the fabric out toward this side. You can grab a chopstick or something blunt and an awl or something pointy, even a little pin or needle would work. And we're going to go ahead and stick the chopstick through the holes and push out these edges. And then you can use the point of the chopstick, but just be careful. If you push these edges out too far, you're going to have some wonky corners for your pocket. And you can use the pointy object to kind of pull that corner out. Just try not to grab your stitches, only the fabric, to make it nice and pointy there on the edge. Just do your best. You can kind of stick the chopstick or other object back through and get it nice and straight. And then we're going to go give that a nice press. Once you have that really nice and pressed, you're going to find that gap that you left. Make sure those are all nicely pressed and folded in. And we're going to do a top stitch across the top of the pocket at about 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you can use a 3 to 3.5 millimeter stitch length. Next, we're going to grab our lining piece and make sure that you have that pocket placement marking on there already. Grab your finished pocket and go ahead and place it right on the markings. You want the opening of the pocket where we did that top stitching to be toward the outside. So we're not going to be sewing this part here. We're just going to be sewing around the pocket. So once we get that all nicely lined up, we can pin that on. Come back to the sewing machine, and we're going to edge stitch along the pocket. We're also going to do just a little triangle right here at this edge, or you can choose to back stitch well at those edges. But essentially you can do the triangle, back stitch well, come down, over, and back up. Again, the triangle and back stitch well. And then if you choose, especially if you're making the medium or large size pocket, go ahead and put a stitch right down the center. Go ahead and measure it and make sure that's right down, or you can fold the fabric like this or backward. That'd probably be easier. And make a little mark there, and then you'll know exactly where the center of your pocket is. And you can back stitch well at the top and come down. That way your pocket is not flopping at all. Get all these little markings off. This is water soluble markings. If you have chalk, you can also do this, and you can also kind of rub like a rough piece of fabric or something on it to get the chalk off. Moving on to the zipper. Fold our zipper and matching up those short edges so that we can find the very center of the zipper. And then we're going to go ahead and mark it on both sides. I'm going to do like a little marking, and then I'll put it flat and get it better. We're going to grab our main piece. You can start with either side, this one or this one, but you want to make sure that you had those center markings on there. I had like a little notch right here. If you've lost them, fold your fabric in half and find that center marking again, and then you can go ahead and mark it. So you're going to need that for this next step. After we've got that, we're going to go ahead and grab our scissors, and we're going to cut into the zipper. I know it's kind of scary, about every ½ inch. Don't cut in too far. We don't want to cut past the seam allowance. So our seam allowance is 3/8 inches, 1 centimeter. So, just a little bit less than that. We're going to snip about every ½ inch. It doesn't have to be like perfectly a ½ inch. And we're going to go ahead and do that on both sides. After you have that all snipped, we're going to go ahead and separate the zipper. And we're going to take each of these zipper parts, and starting with that center part that we marked, we're going to line it up with the center of the main bag piece, right sides together. So see, here's the top of my zipper, that's the back. I'm going to put the top, or the right side of the zipper, matched with the right side of the main piece. And I'm going to clip that on. You can pin it, pin or clip, however you choose. And we're just going to ease that zipper all the way around the piece. It should look like that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to grab our zipper, find that middle marking, and line it up right sides together at that center point of the bag. So it should now look like this. We're going to take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to baste the zipper on at a scant 3/8 inch seam allowance. So just a little bit less than 3/8 seam allowance. And then we'll put the lining on in just a minute. This way our zipper is not going to move out of the way and out of place, and we're going to get a better result. Okay, now that you've got that basted on, you can kind of fold all these back how they were before you sewed them. Grab our lining piece, and you can tell this is the right side because there are pockets on it, right? We're going to put that right sides together, and it doesn't matter if you do this way or this way, unless you want your pocket on a certain side with your tag if you do a little handmade tag, but otherwise it doesn't matter. And then line up the center line of our lining with the center line of our zipper and our main piece, just like so. And go ahead and clip there at the center and then ease it out just the same way we did with the other one. Make sure that right here at the end that your lining and your main match up. So if you need to actually even pin or clip that on first and then go back and ease these in so that they match, that is super important that those match up there at the end. So great. So on this side, same thing. The zipper is sandwiched in between the main and lining. Match up the center point. And then you can even just come over here and grab those ends and match those up. Put a little clip or pin, and then on the other side do the same thing, and then ease the corners in, or the curved edges in after that. When you have all of that pinned or clipped in a way that looks good for you, we're going to go ahead, and this time we're going to go around at 3/8 inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way around both of these sides. You're going to need to use a zipper foot. So grab your zipper foot and we're going to go all the way around on both of these sides at 3/8. Now we're going to go ahead and trim our seam allowances down to about 1/4 inch. You can actually cut right through the zipper on this one. I'm not going to cut it right here at the end, but I am going to start cutting it this way. And if you can see it, you know, I think I can see it better here on the lining side because you have 2 lines of stitching on there. So I'm going to switch it to the lining side here and go in from there and cut it down to about half the width that it already was. Now we're going to go ahead and turn this right side out through one of the boxed corners, doesn't matter which one. So very carefully start turning it to the right side. I say carefully because you don't really want to get that interfacing that you have on there all crumpled up. So if you go kind of too crazy on it, you might not like the results. Great. And then we're going to take it back to the iron, and you're going to be really careful, especially if you're using a plastic or nylon coil zipper. You can iron it along here. If you're using leather or vinyl, go ahead and use your roller and get this really nice and flat as you can on both sides. And then all we're going to do is top stitch this all the way around. So top stitch it from the right side so you have nice looking stitches. You can edge stitch right here about 1/8 inch from the seam with a 3 to 3.5 millimeter stitch length. And just make sure that your lining and your main exterior are pressed back. You don't want like this part being all bubbled up underneath. So make sure it's really well pressed back as you're going along, and stitch all the way on both of these sides. Okay, guess what? We're almost done. We're going to put the zipper on now. So what you're going to do is fold it right sides together so that you have those zippers together. And then you can put your zipper on however you like. Some people use the fork trick. I have this nice little zipper putter oner. This is 3D printed, but I got it from Wawak. So you can order it from Wawak, or if you have a 3D printer, you can make one of these. But basically what you are going to do is put that zipper pull on. You can put 1 or 2 pulls on, that's up to you. I'm just gonna do 1 today. And we just want that zipper to go in there, you know, obviously the right way together. It's a little awkward, but you're gonna grab them like this and stick them into your zipper pull. Let's make sure that our edges right here are lining up. Okay, so you can see that mine are just a little bit off. So it looks like I want this to be, this side of the zipper to go out just a little bit. So let's do that. Try it again. You might have to do it a few times. Don't try not to get too frustrated with this part, because putting the zipper pull on, it can be a little bit frustrating sometimes. So see how they're lined up now? And then this one needs to be just a little bit longer. So what I'm going to do is put that side in first and put that down just a little bit, and then pull the other side in with it. Hopefully that matches up pretty well. It does. Okay, so we're going to pull that through. Don't hate me, but I'm going to pull it all the way off. What? Yes, I'm going to pull it off because now we have a closed zipper. And if we put it on one more time, then we will have a closed zipper on both sides so that we can sew the zipper shut. So again, I'm going to do that one a little bit more so that they're even. And as long as your zipper teeth are even on there, you did it right. I'm going to pull that zipper pull through the boxed corners, or maybe from the outside here, up to about halfway. And then we're going to take the zipper over to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch across. We're going to base the zipper closed right here and go over it a few times. If you're using a metal zipper, you can do this by hand, or I really recommend hand cranking the machine through it. If you're using a nylon coil like I am, you can also hand crank, but I haven't ever had a problem with the needle just going straight through it. So I'm going to come over here to the machine and get that stitched. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is box those corners and put our little tabbies in while we're boxing them. When you look at the box corner like this, you can actually easily see where that center marking is. So if you want to like make a little mark there, or even just put like a pin in your boxed corner, that would not be a bad thing. And then you're making sure that you line them up properly. We're going to match up that center point to the center point of the zipper, just like this. Just make sure those corners right here are pulled all the way out, and that like both sides of the boxed corner are even with each other. And then I'll go ahead and pin that nicely so that you have that boxed corner as such. Now we're going to cut the zipper off. I know, these things are so scary. These parts are super scary. But really, we just want to have that even with that boxed corner. So I'm going to grab my scissors and I'm going to cut right across the zipper. If you want, you can grab a lighter or something that you use to melt your zippers with, and you can melt that right there so that it doesn't fray. But if you do this, be really careful, because you do not want to set your house on fire or your fabrics. But if you want to do this, you can just lightly go along the edge right there, and just so that your zipper's not fraying a whole bunch. And then we're going to do the same thing on this other side. And you could actually cut the zipper. You can see where those boxed corners are. So you could actually cut the zipper now. Do the lighting. So here's that boxed corner, and I've got a pin right through the center of that area when it's out like a box, right? And what we're going to do is open up the box, and we're going to stick the tab inside. It doesn't matter which way you put it, but if If you like one way or the other, you can put that so that it's upright. And you want this raw edge to match up with the raw edge of the zipper right there. Center it on the zipper, like so. And then we're going to match up that center point of the box with the center of the zipper. And make sure that little tab inside doesn't move. And then you can pull out those box corners really nicely. Add some pins or clips. Just like that. And then we're just going to sew across. So make sure that you go all the way from this edge at the 3/8 inch seam allowance, all the way from this edge over. Like, don't start in the middle. You need to go all the way out to the edge right here. And we're going to do that on both sides. Add your tab to this side as well. And then we'll sew across our boxed corners. And we're going to sew across this part about 3 times at the zipper to make sure that it's really nice and secure. So we can turn that right side out and make sure we like how it looks at the zipper tabs. Push out those corners. We're going to bind the seams, but I just want to make sure it looks nice first. Okay, it is looking so good. What do y'all think? So exciting. Okay, so we're going to open it up, flip it wrong side out again, and we're just going to hurry and bind these seams, and we're going to be done. Yay! So you can choose to use binding or fold over elastic. On your seam right here, we're going to trim. Just make sure everything is straight across right here and that it's about 1/4 inch. Don't cut too much off. Just have that 1/4 inch. If you are using fold over elastic, what you're going to do is you're going to fold in, and you can decide, okay, let me talk about the sides. See how it's shiny and it's not shiny on this one? It doesn't really matter which way you do. If you want your bags to be shiny, fold this to the wrong side being the not shiny side, or if you want it opposite, that's great too. And all you're going to do is fold in that edge about 1/4 inch and line it up right here at the edge of where you want it to be bound. And then you're just going to fold it over and sandwich that seam and pin or clip it on. And then you want to pull that FOE just a little bit. And then you'll cut off this side. Just a little bit longer so that you can also fold this in that 1/4 inch. Like that. And then sandwich that seam and clip it on. And you just want to make sure that you're covering your stitches underneath there on both sides. So see, this one doesn't look as good. So let's go ahead and redo that and make sure it's really nicely around the seam. And if you stick it out right here, you can even just trim that a little bit and tuck it in a little bit better. Just like that. And then you'll just take it over to the sewing machine and sew right across here. Easy as pie, right? Okay, now what if we're using binding? Let's talk about that. If you're using binding, this is double fold bias tape. You want to unfold it like this. And there's one side that's skinnier than the other on a lot of these. So here's my skinny side. I'm going to line the skinny side with the part that I want to bind. we'll fold in this end about 1/4 inch. If you want, you can press this with the iron. You don't have to. And you're going to pin or clip this on. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut it just a little bit longer than we need. We'll fold in this side about 1/4 inch and clip that on. Make sure it's wide enough that it's covering the part that you want bound. And then we're just going to go ahead and sew across this. And after we do that, we'll fold it. So see that little crease? That's where we're going to sew this, and just make sure it's covering all the way over on your part that you want bound. Just like that. Okay, and then we're going to keep those little ends folded in and then flip it over like this on the other side. You know what, let's go ahead and press those ends and they'll stay in a lot nicer. Okay, I have those ends pressed in with the iron, so we're going to go ahead and fold again to be able to cover that seam really nicely. You can pin or clip that on. And then you'll just sew across to secure it. Now you can sew it from this side so that you can see it on here, and you can sew there. And because it's longer on that side, see how it's like it kind of drapes over the edge of that a little bit more, it will catch it. You can also kind of stuff that up in there just a little bit. I think that would look nicer. And then we're just going to go ahead and sew across that edge. Okay, there you go. So it is bound. And then on the FOE side, if you're doing it this way, you can actually, with the FOE, if you want, sew it on one side and then the other too, or you can just sandwich it like this. That's up to you. After you've bound your seams in whichever way that you prefer, go ahead and flip that right side out. And guess what? We are all done. And you have made a cute little toiletry bag. You can go ahead and push out the edges like this too. Make sure it's nice and flat. Congratulations, all done. I hope you love your new Tessa Toiletry bag. I just wanted to take 1 minute to tell you a little bit about the differences between the first bag I made and the second bag I made to help you out. So this is the small bag, and this is the medium-sized bag. And then there is one more size in this pattern, the large size. So, you know, it kind of grades up about evenly. You can imagine how big the large size one is. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the interfacing. So on this bag, the first bag I made, exterior fabric is a light to medium weight fabric, and then the lining is just kind of like a quilting cotton weight. And I only interfaced the exterior on this bag. I used SF101. I actually used Wawak's version of SF101, which is I'll add it in the description below, but it's basically the same thing. And you can see that this bag is just a little bit floppy. On this bag, I used the exact same interfacing, but instead of just doing the exterior, I also interfaced the lining with the same interfacing. And you can see this one's just got a little bit more structure so that when I put things in it, it's going to stand up better. And it also just looks a little nicer when it's sitting empty, right? Then this one kind of wants to flop just a tiny bit. So just think about that, what interfacing you're using and what fabric you're using, because it really does make such a big difference. Thank you so much for watching the video today. I would love a like, a subscribe, and some comments down below letting me know how you think I did and giving me any constructive criticism for next time. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.